Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. Today's episode is my guest is Delia from Delia and Associates, a marketing company on the East Coast. We talk a little bit about marketing, but we really talk about his journey, how he grabbed the wheel from his father in taking over the business. We talk about the things that he's learned that he wished he knew it when he was in his 20s and the lessons learned in his 40s and 50s. We even work in a couple of great stories about Cuban cigars. So go grab a cocktail, grab a cigar, strap in for another impactful episode of Sales and Cigars. So Ed, welcome to the program. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day.
Thanks so much for having me, Walter. Great to be with you.
All right, so let's get this out of the way. The Austin Powers thing behind you and the little mini me. We talked a little bit about it in the green room, but let's you share why that's there. You have an affinity to the character.
I think it's a great character. I've always liked Mike Myers as an actor. I thought the Austin Powers series was hysterical, and I'm a big fan of comedies. I always have been. I still am. I always will be. Um, I probably have seen every '80s comedy movie forward, and some from the '70s too. So definitely. But that was one that always stood out for me. So I pay tribute to him with his likeness, and then Mini Me is in the corner there too.
Yeah, you see the top of his head. He was kind of a cool little character. Those I don't know that I ever sat through the entire Austin Powers trilogy. Was it three, right?
It's three, yeah.
Yeah, uh, in its entirety, but they were fun. I'm a comedy guy myself. I used to go to the comic strip in New York on a regular basis, and just whoever was there, Seinfeld or um, you know just about anybody would show up there on a given Saturday night. So
Yeah, yeah,
love to laugh. So
absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about. Give you an easy question to start off. Is there a book or that you like to give out, or is there something that you share with your clients and and your business associates that you think is valuable from a gift perspective?
There's a couple that we've given out over the years, and a lot of them are, I guess, pseudo classics in our world. One that probably has been passed around the most is Purple Cow by
Mm,
Seth Godin. I think
wonderful.
I had the pleasure of meeting him before he was, kind of Seth Godin famous, when he was just getting his name out there. It was like right before his first book, and he is an absolute true creative, just an amazing creative mind. Just the way his mind works is fascinating to me, and I always looked up to him and the way that he um, positioned his theories, Purple Cow, and then many other Free Prize Inside, many other books that he's written. I've been a big fan of his. By virtue of being in a service business, Selling the Invisible by Harvey Beckwith is another one
Hmm.
that's high on my list. And then by Al Rice, the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding, as
Mm.
uh, as my focus and my passion was around brand, more specifically B2B brands. He laid down some really good, solid, foundational philosophies around brand building, and maybe was one of the first to really do so and package it that way. So those are some that come to mind out of the gate.
Whatever Seth writes, whether it's his blog or a book, I buy it. The story about how he named that, the book, The Purple Cow, and he's just a great storyteller.
He
And
is.
um,
I think
it's
some of the best writings, and of course, E Myth is sort of a you know table side book for any entrepreneur
sure.
by Gerber. In my career, I've had the fortune of meeting all of these people. I met Seth. I've met Michael Gerber. I met Simon Sinek, who wrote Start with Why,
Sure.
when he was actually just kind of getting rolling. And um, what I find about these gentlemen, which I really like too, is that when you meet them in person, they're true to their story. They really, really have passion and belief in what they're saying. It's not, hey, I'm just out there to push a book. Simon Sinek, he is such a passionate dude. I mean, he really believes in what he has to say, as does Seth Godin, as do the others.
Mhm.
So it's always nice to say, well, who's behind this book? What are they really like?
Right.
And more often than not, they're true to form. At least that's been my experience.
The ones that are authentic, and I've not had the pleasure of meeting Seth, although I'm told that if you have a podcast that has over 100 episodes, he will agree to be on as a guest. Um, and I think I have to get myself prepared for that because I mean he's sort of an idol, if you will. I mean, I look forward to reading his blog every day. I mean, how many people can you like take their first name and Google it and he comes up, right? It's Seth Godin. That doesn't happen very often. I have had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Gerber a couple of times at conferences where he spoke, and no nonsense. Like, I mean, he is the guy on the stage, the guy on the pages. That's who he is. It's
Yep.
that authenticity comes through, I think, in the stories, and that's important. Um, so, thank you for that. The other place I like to go is, can you share a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey? There's I make the joke, and people are probably tired of it who listen to this, but when we were 10 years old, I didn't think I was going to be doing what I'm doing today, and I don't know, maybe you did, but you know, talk a little bit. You don't have to go back to when you were 10, but talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. So I grew up around Delia Associates, which was a family business. So my dad started this company in 1964, and like many kids, and I was the youngest I have three siblings, so I'm the youngest of four by 10 years. And when you grow up around a family business, you start just doing things without really thinking about it. So there was a big press conference coming up, and I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I was in the lineup helping manually collate press kits. And when I was 12 and 13, I was going to help out on photo shoots and help. I remember once I helped my brother erect a trade show booth for a client. I think I wrote my first published press release when I was 16. And then I was doing media analysis and helping out with video shoots when I was 18. And all the while, it's just what you did. It was a family business. So a good friend of mine from college often reminds me about something I said to him when we were standing next to each other in line about to graduate from Dickinson College. I said, Mike, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do next, but I'll be damned if I go to work for my old man. So, Walter, if I ever make an affirmative statement, you bet the ranch on the opposite, and you're going to be a rich man. Okay.
That's funny. Um, how long did it take?
So, so I was all set to. So that was 1995, and I had a job lined up outside of Philadelphia, and I was a couple of weeks out to move down to find a place to live outside of Philadelphia. And back then, one of the hot career paths was pharmaceutical sales.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I was tracking, and what I was thinking is that's where I want to be. One of my older brothers had a very successful career, and he's done remarkably well down I'll say a sales centric path to leadership. And I saw that, and that left an impression on me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Um, I'd also seen my siblings do a pass through the family business, and a lot of butting heads with dear old dad. Um, so I'm like, my relationship with dad is really good. I see what my brother's doing in sales, and that's pretty cool. I'm full of energy. I'm ready to go. And then Dad and I had a heart to heart. We had a sit down. And for the first time, he kind of said, listen, um, I want you to really consider coming into the business. I'll train you. You can buy me out. But decide over this weekend, because next week I got 3 or 4 people lined up to potentially buy Delia Associates. Oh, okay. So it
No
happened to
pressure.
be that weekend I was gathering with some recent grad friends from Dickinson College. And while I was there, I was kind of talking to the guys and taking stock of where they were. So they were either taking really low level jobs, kind of like what I was about to do, or they were going back to school.
Hmm.
So I said, here I am, I'm 22 years old, and I'm about to pass up on business ownership. Well, I better at least give it a try. I better see how that goes. And so I came back from that weekend. I said, Dad, I'm in. And the day later was my first official day at Delia Associates. So I often tell people, not surprisingly, a lot of our clients are multi-generation business owners.
Sure.
So I have an affinity for those. And when people will sometimes ask me, how do I know if it's the right path for me to get in the family business or not? Because that's a big decision for any next gen. I say one indicator that told me I was on the right path was I kind of looked up and a year had passed, and I was just like, how did that happen? And I was working long hours and working weekends and just going hardcore. So I often tell people, you're in a good place when time seems to fly. You're not
Yep.
really cognizant of the time. You're not like saying, oh gosh, I can't wait till 5, got to get out of here.
Right.
But just 5 turns into 6, and you look up, it's like 10 o'clock at night and you're still there. And you had no concept that the time was passing, or that you're there on a weekend with no thought but to be anywhere else but there.
Right.
So when time flies and you really like where you are, you're probably in a good place. And that was the case with me. I guess now it's, LinkedIn tells me I've been doing this for about 28 years. So I guess that's where I'm at.
The relationship with your father blossomed, up and down, challenge. How did that go?
Great question. So initially it was great. And I think my presence kind of gave him an energy boost of sorts. He was definitely fully engaged. We definitely had an early interesting conversation when I think it was August was the first time, August of 95 was the first time I ever looked at a P&L statement. And I said, Dad, why is this number at the end of the August column in parentheses? He said, well, that means we lost money in August. I said, oh, why is this bigger number next to it in the next column also in parentheses? He goes, well, we've been losing money all year. So I'm thinking, what the hell did I get into? And yeah, we were at net negative the first year I joined, and by the next year we turned it around to a positive. And I think I certainly won't take all the credit for that, but I think by virtue of my energy and my influence, I think he got re-energized too, and we started to roll and have some really good years. We did start to lock horns a bit though, and I think it was around towards the end of 1999. This time I called to sit down and I said, Dad, I love you, but one of us needs to go do something else because we seem to be at odds too much. And what I was really saying to him is, look, I'm buying this. I got it. I've got this. And if I need your help, I'll come to you for help. But let me make sure I can do this,
Right.
which was it was important to me, Walter, because I've seen a lot of family businesses where that first generation, that parent, will stay on too
Too
long,
long. Yep.
and they're close to it. It's what they know. It's what they love. And I get all that. And I don't want to take that away from them, nor do I ever want to take anything away from the founder of any organization. It's a great, great thing that these people do, that my dad did in 64. It's a great
Sure.
thing. You know, it's a great thing that the founders do, the startups. But if they don't let the next generation be the leader, you don't want to be finding out at age 50 or 60, oh my gosh, I don't know how to run this company. You know, I wanted to know that, at 20, 25, 27.
Right. Yeah.
And then
Well,
make sure I knew how to do that.
I've seen it play out a couple of different ways. I worked mostly in small family businesses in my career, um, because I wasn't good with the corporate world. Right.
Mhm.
I'm not good with rules. Um, I'm good with respecting them. I'm good with bending them. And I remember a guy that had second generation owner of a business, and I was there for a couple of weeks. I'm like, could we talk about the rules here? I need to understand the guardrails. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's this, and there's no. I'm like, yeah, I need to know when I break the rules in this area, because I want to be the first guy in your office to say I did this. But if I don't know where the line is, I don't know when I step over it. And he had trouble with the idea of breaking the rules, but he respected the fact that I didn't want to do it without letting him know I had done it and why I did it. And I think there's a little bit of that with the second generation. It's like, Dad, we need to do this. I think we need to try this. Well, we've never done that. Yeah, I know, but right. And testing those areas and seeing how you are as a leader and empowering your employees and things that might not have been there before. So that's a do you think it would have been different had you gone someplace else for a couple years and then come back into the business?
I wish there was time for that. I really do. And I think that a lot of next generation people that join the family business and walk in with a body of experience from another environment um, have a much better vantage point than I did sooner. You know, I think we all end up in the same place eventually, but I think they get there faster. And
And less
so
bumpy?
what's that?
And less bumpy?
Less bumpy, and with a little bit more, practical on the ground experience. As opposed to, sometimes I felt like I was building the battleship on the way to the war.
Mm-hmm.
Um, learning and doing and learning and doing and trial and error and trial and error. But true to, I guess, my roots and my DNA, I'm too stubborn to give up. So, I just keep plowing forward, and
Sure.
eventually, I'll find a way forward. So I think if I had that opportunity, or if we had the time, that would have been great, you know.
Yeah.
But in my case, I just didn't have the time. It was do it or don't do it,
Right.
Um,
And it is what it is. I'm just curious because I always thought it would be cool if you had two business owners who had second generation, their sons and daughters wanted to take over, and they allowed their sons and daughters to flip and go work for the other entrepreneur for a couple years to kind of get a feel for one it's like to be an employee, and then just get a different perspective.
yeah,
Um, assuming they're not competitors and such, but it's a I have a daughter who's um, graduating from college next year, and she's been contemplating what she does, and we're having different conversations than we used to about that. And she's like, Dad, I might have to go into sales to, because she's an equestrian, she's a horse person, and
nice.
what she really her passion is horses, and to go buy a barn to do what she wants to do, it's eight figures, and
Yep.
so I think that's good thinking. It's a great place to be able to make money, and I know some people that might be able to help you with that. Um, So it's interesting. She's found a little niche that allows her to stay close to horses and be part of the business and develop a little name for herself while she's still in school. So it's interesting. Maybe there's one day she can come into what we do, but we would be that butting heads thing would be a big deal with her and I.
Yeah,
We
we
raised her to be a strong, self-sufficient, confident woman, and that's what she's
yeah,
become.
yes, yes, and that's what you'll get. And the I think it's okay to disagree, But when it comes to the family dynamic, um, there's a couple of things that I look for, and I think there's one thing that, despite the fact that we locked horns sometimes, why we were able to make it work, and that's that we were very respectful of time in the business and time at home. You know, when we were at a family gathering, if it was to celebrate something, a holiday, or whatever it was, no talk of business. It was all about family.
Mm,
And when we were in business mode, vice versa. It's all business, and we're really not talking about family.
right.
So we were able to be very deliberate in keeping the lines drawn,
Hmm.
and I think that helped. Because it mitigated some of that. Because so many times I hear about people in a family business say, "Oh, they bring it home," right? So we weren't, in a sense, bringing it home. We were leaving it the office at the office, and home is home.
Hard to do, but I think it's one of those things that's important to separate that line, but really hard to do, especially with a father and a son when you're
Yeah,
celebrating somebody's birthday and you want to like go have that conversation, but you got to respect where you are in the family and the
yeah,
function. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, is there is there a point where you made an investment in yourself or an investment in empowering your people or teaching them something that really you thought was a pivotal moment for your own professional growth and development?
There were a number of them along the way. Um, so I'm a big believer in peer learning.
Okay.
So I've, for many, many years in my career, been involved in various peer groups of Vistage or EO. Currently an EO member. I was a Vistage member for a number of years. So I'm a big, um, I've always liked that style of learning, of group learning, of hearing what different people have to say in different perspectives and then formulating my opinion or my thinking based on that. I've also been through many different curriculums across my career. Dale Carnegie, Strategic Coach, EOS. We actually run on the EOS platform, Delia Associates, and that's been a really great model for us.
Sure.
So I also extend that out to my team in terms of uh, one of our core values is self-motivated to learn and grow. In this industry, you have to learn and grow. The industry moves very quickly. It's very easy to get left behind. So you always have to be working on your skills. So we're currently employing and experimenting with various AI tools in our business. So we're always working on that and also applying groupthink when we do our quarterly strategy meetings as a team. A segment of that is a learning segment. So the last time we met, it was basically what have we seen that's new in the AI realm. And the nice thing about having a small team, so we're 12 people in total, is that we can see it, we can decide, we can act on it quickly, we can try it, we can adopt it, and we can be implementing something very rapidly. So that's one of the nice things about being a small, compact team is you can move really quick.
So as the leader of the company, how many L10s are you sitting in on these days besides the leadership team?
Level 10s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we currently just do one a week. So it's just
Okay.
a leadership team. We um, we were trying to do the ladder out model,
Sure.
and you know, I'll just say EOS is a good platform and it's a good model, but it's I know they want to say that every business can fit in the box, but it doesn't always fit perfectly in the box.
No.
Um, so that ladder out just never really got the traction we were looking for. So we just said, you know what, we're going to do our one meeting, and what that one meeting does is it makes sure that nothing is swept under the rug. Issues, because that's what we kind of used to do, is either kick the can down the road or sweep the issue under the rug or pretend it wasn't a problem. That way, we're always confronting issues and coming to some form of resolution or action off of those issues. So it's allowed us to accelerate our problem solving capability and our issue processing capability much faster and a much more transparent and open form of discussion way. So that's really helped.
Yeah, the IDS process, I think, does when everybody understands how to execute, how to be clear. Um, First time I was thrown into one, like nobody told me like anything, right? They just said, show up and, if you have time, read the book. And I'm like, you want me in a meeting tomorrow? How am I going to read the book, right? Um, and then they were like, you need to be transparent and share your thoughts and don't hold back. And I'm like, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. And then they're like, no, we do. Um, it's a there's some elements of it that I really get behind. I'm curious the difference between an EO forum and the Vistage piece where you get together with your group in the second half of the day. Is that dynamic different in your opinion? One more valuable than the other, or just different?
I think they're just different. I would say that they're both good for different reasons. And
Okay.
it's really about, and I've also had some exposure to Renaissance Executive Forum, which is another version of that too.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say Vistage is a professionally moderated group. The forum is run by a forum chair,
Right.
and that's a professional that runs the group and also gives one-on-one consulting. And it's usually somebody from business or industry of a high level
Mhm.
in their career. EO is self-governed. So in my EO forum, I'm currently the moderator. So each year the moderator changes hands. So it's a bit of a different style. And EO is more of sharing based on direct experience, where
Yeah.
in this stage there's a little bit more latitude to share experience, but also enter discussion. Hey, here's what I think, or here's what I feel, or this is my opinion. Whereas it's not necessarily experience based.
Hmm.
Um, so I couldn't say one was more valuable than the other. It's just that they're different models, and um, I think each person can kind of find their way to, hey, which one, much like trying on a suit, which one feels better.
Right.
You know? So
Yeah, and it's interesting because you named some of the big ones where you've made some investments in yourself and in the company to help constantly looking for improvement. The books that you've shared are, those are all things that allow us to stay growth minded and challenge ourselves and understand things, um, which is I think why entrepreneurs are the people I love to hang out with, just because they're always pushing to get something that'll help get them a little bit better. And that's what I strive to do with these conversations is, try to find that little nugget that can, you know, somebody can hang their hat on, like that was worth the time to listen to that.
mhm.
Is there, aside from the second generation and growing the company, is there something else that you're particularly proud of from a professional point of view? Hey, thanks for being part of the Sales and Cigar community. I wanted to share that I wrote a book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization. The CEOs who've read it tell me I cut to the chase quickly, get to the point, explain exactly what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing it, and how to fix it. So if you want a free copy, go check out the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the interview.
I think I'll get there with this other observation that I've made about next generation leaders is that I can usually spot when a next generation leader is going to make it or not make it based on one factor, and that's, do they have a vision that's their own? It doesn't even have to be a good vision. It just
Right.
has to be a vision that's their own. Because doing it a little bit better than my mom or my dad did is not a vision,
Nope.
or doing it just like they did is most certainly not a vision. Um, so when I was taking over, I had this passion for brand and this whole idea of how brands are built. And at that point, a lot of my exposure to brand was in the consumer space. And in the mid 90s period, that's when we saw the first broader commercialization of the web, where companies were starting to put their presence on the web and online. And around that time, I was really puzzled because I saw a lot of companies that were almost reimagining their brands online versus the way they appeared maybe at a trade show or in print or in other media. And I
Okay.
was sitting there saying, but it's the same brand. Why do they feel compelled to look different here? Shouldn't they look the same? Shouldn't they be delivering the same message and the same brand experience, just made available through a digital format versus a traditional or offline format? And I remember the day. It was, I think it was in 1998. It was in May, and I was in Toronto for a client meeting that was based in Toronto. And unfortunately, it was pouring rain, and I had like 2 hours before the meeting. I was hoping to walk around and see a little bit of Toronto, and
Sure.
it's pouring rain, so I'm kind of stuck in my hotel room. And as I was sitting there, I started to wonder, and I'm a big believer of the word wonder. I think we should all try to stay in a state of wonder because that's
Mm.
where great things and great ideas come from. So I kind of asked myself, I wonder what it would be like if there was a system that helped B2B companies define and develop their brand in a meaningful way. And that's where the brand leadership solution, which is now a patented process that we have for developing and revitalizing brands, and it's an entire platform, was born in that hotel room in Toronto back then. And to date, we've helped re-energize or develop or launch more than 150 brands, and all in the B2B space. Um, and it was really in that moment where I kind of had that vision, and I said, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to be known for, and this is how I want to commit to my life's work. Is I want to enable B2B brands to unleash the power of brand to grow in a sustainable and accelerated way. And that's what we set out to do.
I love it. It's a great story. Um, for starters, the idea of wonder. It's one thing that Lencioni talks a lot about, right? He actually defines it as a working genius. One of them is a wonder, a genius, and constantly being like that guy that just thinks about something and somebody else has to say uh, that'll work or won't work, right? And you got to manage that, sort of like a visionary and an integrator in the EOS world. Um, but I mean, that's a departure from what Pops was doing, right? You know, with B2C to B2B, that's a jump. It's a different world. I know in my world, I try to stay away from B2C because I just see it as a more transactional, not always, but more transactional space. And I like the complex B2B sale. So when you're talking about brand in your process, is how do you think about a brand, or how would you? It goes beyond a logo. It goes beyond like archetype. What's part of that? Because I think you're talking to entrepreneurs and you're talking to business owners that might be contemplating like, am I getting stale? Am I representing the vision I truly have? So how would you go about describing what a brand really is?
So we use a very simple definition, and because there's many definitions for what's a brand, and
Sure.
I've heard them all. At least I've heard many of them. Um,
Simple is good. I like simple.
so we say a brand is unique times three. It's a unique entity with a unique offering to an equally unique audience, and that's how we define brand. Then branding is all of the activities that a brand takes to engage its audience. So the brand is one thing. Brand development then is the deliberate process of articulating what that brand is and how it functions. And that's really what our brand leadership is a system for going, and it's a four-step process: discover, define, differentiate, and deploy, that all of our services and all of our solutions are arranged under to help a B2B brand grow and enrich its position in the marketplace. So that's how we define it.
I love that. That is simple, but it's a simple message. But then you can define it equally as simple for people to follow along, and then you have a process that pulls that out.
Hmm.
Right, that's what your
Yeah.
patent process does, to pull that out. So when you're doing that, when you're going through the process, who's involved? Like, say you got a $15 million manufacturer,
Hmm.
that they probably have a manufacturing team somewhere in the 20 to 50, and then there's a group of leadership people. Like, who do you pull from to be in that room when you start talking about the brand?
It's a great question. I would say the top executive, the CEO, president, whatever their title might be. I can only think of one brand study that we've done in all that we've done where the CEO deliberately elected not to be part of the brand team. Um, and he was very happy with the results, but I think he self-selected out because he felt that he would have been too heavy-handed in the process if he was involved. But that was typically the CEO is involved, and then they'll often ask me, well, who should we have as part of this discovery team? And we often liken to we take a page out of Jim Collins' Good to Great and say, okay, we're going to use the Mission to Mars exercise. If you
Okay.
were going to send a contingency from your company to go meet the aliens, who would you send? And you'd probably send the people that were best representatives of the company, i.e., you would send your brand ambassadors. That's who should be in the room because they're the ones that will speak most passionately, most authentically, and most engagedly about the brand in question and be true and authentic and hold nothing back. And that's really what we want. Versus saying, well, we want somebody from operations and somebody from service and finance and sales, because that doesn't necessarily represent your best brand ambassadors. So we say, forget about all that. Whoever represents a great brand ambassador should be part of that team because they're going to really hold the authentic brand in their hearts. They already are.
Hmm.
So
That's a great way to define it, because then you're going to get the passion that you're looking for. You're going to get the insights and the relationship with the customers, right? That what you're trying to accomplish.
mhm.
Um, can there be too many people in that room?
I've only seen a few instances where I think people were over invited, and we'll always advise. Once you get over 10, you're starting to push it, and we've done a few where there was 15, 18, and I think in retrospect, the leadership of that company said, yeah, that was probably a few too many. They didn't all need to be in that room,
No.
and you know would maybe pare the next meeting down a little bit based on that. And they're like, yeah, but they want to be inclusive sometimes, and that's their culture. So we don't fight it. We just say, hey, this is kind of optimal. If you're in that 6 to 10 range, you're optimal. And then sometimes it's even smaller. It really depends on the company and the composition. Again, who are the brand ambassadors? Um, so
Is
yeah,
there a niche for your company that you have an affinity to, or is it just really wide open to people that are have some passion about their brand?
it's really we do have some industries that we have a lot of experience in. Being a New Jersey-based company, not surprisingly, pharmaceutical. So pharmaceutical supply chain, we have a lot of those clients. But also, our region is also very rich in manufacturing, engineering, technology, and then professional services. So those are the broader buckets. Commercial construction as well is another one. Um, so it's fairly broad. We affectionately call our clients the brands behind the brands because
Hmm.
they typically live, in the supply chain. So, this morning I picked up some Starbucks coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would never be our client, but the company that makes this lid, that would be our client.
Got it. I live outside of Detroit, and what's the big three is affectionately referred to.
Yep.
The sometimes they put stuff together. They assemble things that are put, like they're
Mhm.
not really manufacturing stuff the way that Henry did years ago. Um, they have parts made over here, parts made over
Yeah.
there, they come back here, and it's assembled in the United States. It's a nice story, but it's kind of BS. But the ones that are actually doing it is that the tier ones, the tier twos, the tier threes, and then
Mhm.
sometimes that little tool and die shop is making a critical piece,
Yeah.
uh, and they have to jump through a bunch of hoops to be able to play that game. Um, and that's I love it. The brand behind the brand. That's a because they're the ones that are getting it done. Those are the guys doing the work and gals doing the work. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there
And
anything you
sometimes
want to?
mission critical stuff too. I was just
Oh
sitting
yeah,
with a company today that has a certain process, fairly new process, but thanks to that process, there was a massive forged, like a 20,000 ton steel forged piece that went on a critical infrastructure process. And one little tiny component of that was off. And just that one little thing in the supply chain being off meant that that product couldn't ship to where it needed to on time. And that was a huge project. And, it's fascinating when you peel back the hood of some of these products that we use every day. The supply chains are quite extensive, and sometimes one little point can bottleneck so much. We've seen that play out across the COVID years. When Texas had a lot of bad storms and whatnot. The realization that how much of the plastics industry is driven from the
right.
processing that's done in that region, and if that region shuts down, so does a lot of the manufacturing of various plastics materials.
Yeah, we're not just connected within the country, but globally. Those connections are
Yep.
there. I can attest to that. We redid our ripped our kitchen out and rebuilt it right from down to the studs, and a ridiculous amount of money. And we paid for the refrigeration and freezer columns, paid for it in full in March of this year, knowing that we probably wouldn't get those until November or December of this year. Well, a month ago they said, well, you're not going to get them until January or February of next year, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? And when you do a little investigating, trying to figure out why they can't, you know, make a refrigerator column and a freezer column the way, there's like two little pieces that they're running short on from their supplier, and they don't have another source, and they're stuck. And and we're stuck because you build the cabinets around the stuff, and everybody's stuff is just about a half inch different from each other, so we're screwed. So being B2B, there's that infrastructure that's in place for everybody, um, to be able to get something done, and it's usually that little tiny thing that somebody thought was not that important that holds up the show. Anything else you want to share about the business that you think would be helpful to the audience?
Well, if anybody's around tomorrow around 11 o'clock Eastern, I'm doing a webinar on titled "Your Capabilities Deck is All Wrong." So it's really the time of year where a lot of people are doing presentations for the coming year.
Mhm.
So we thought it was timely to give some pointers as to what makes an optimized capability stack that's designed to sell and to ultimately lead to a next step in the buying process. So that's visible if you go to our website delianet.com. On the header, there's a little place to register if anybody's
Okay.
interested, and we'll have the recording post on our resources page.
I will have that. I'll get that posted out, um, so that people can and see that tomorrow and be able to go get the recordings. This will drop after tomorrow, but I'll see what I can do in the forefront to get people there.
And
Um,
we'll have the recording up too post session. So if people want to circle back to our resources page, it'll be there, and as well as some other recordings,
Valuable.
other resources.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, last question, past or present, any relationship with cigars and you or your family?
I do. I can vividly recall um, a trip to Italy, my honeymoon, um, where I experienced Cuban cigars for the first time.
Hmm.
And people have always told me, and there's a bit of a uh, you know um, nostalgia around Cuban cigars as considered, and in those 2 weeks, I understood why.
Hmm.
They are truly a class by themselves, and it was really, I'm like, wow, this is one. I had cigars before. I'm like, this is truly a whole new class of cigar. It was really amazing. So that was my first exposure to Cuban cigars. Um,
Interesting. Yeah,
and
there's something about the dirt. There's something about the air there that is different. Um, what how I know they're different, because I mean I can taste the difference. But I was walking. My wife and I will go for a walk in the park occasionally, and I took a Cuban with me for a walk, and I don't know, we're 5 minutes in. She's like, "What are you smoking? It's different than normal." I'm like, "What do you mean it's different?" She goes, "Well, it smells like the cigars my grandfather used to smoke." So she's German, and when she was little, they would go for walks in the woods with her grandparents, and he would be smoking this Cuban cigar, and we talked about it, and that was it. She's not a big fan of cigars, but she could tell the difference, and she had no idea. Right, I didn't advertise that I was spending stupid amount of money on Cuban cigars, but she uh, she could tell, and to me, that is scientific evidence. If she can tell the difference, then there's a difference. Um,
I would say I have 19-year-old twins. They're in their first year of college, boy, girl. And I was at my son's campus, and um, I don't know if this is more field anecdotal research. I don't know if it's uh, quantitative, but I definitely noticed a number of the guys, you know, college age guys, smoking cigars. So I don't know if that means there's something of a resurgence in that age group, or if there's an affinity among that age group. But I was like, oh, there's a lot of guys smoking cigars here, and it was just something that I wouldn't have noticed before. So I think maybe there's a comeback in that generation. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. That's good for the industry. We have there's a lot of the FDA is trying to stick their nose into cigars, and there's some really big companies that manufacture cigars and control brands. But at the end of the day, a cigar is it's a journey to make a cigar, from the seed to grow to age to roll to distribute. It's a 3 to 5 year process, and it's only done by people who know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Um, it's amazing if you ever get a chance to go to a real cigar factory in Honduras or Nicaragua or Cuba. It's a wonderful experience. So I appreciate the
Nice.
stories. I this was great. I think we have some. If folks have if you're a business owner and you're thinking about your your brand, and you want to explore what changes might mean, I think all of Ed's contact info will be in the show notes. Go reach out. Appreciate it. Best way to reach out: LinkedIn, email, website.
Email is edelia at delianet.com, or just Ed Delia, Delia, on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty findable.
We'll
And
have all
if you
that in.
see if you see a younger version of me, that's my nephew Eddie Delia. So I'm the older one.
Got it. Got it. We'll have all that in the notes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Walter. It was great to be with you today. Thanks so much.
I love sharing secrets when I figure them out. That's why I created this program called Sales Hiring Secrets. Early in my sales management career, I was terrible at hiring salespeople. They failed more often than not. Then I discovered the secret that you can't hire salespeople the same way you hire everyone else. That's why everyone fails. In Sales Hiring Secrets, I'm going to teach you all of the secrets.
the secrets to understanding what you really need your salesperson to do, how to attract an ideal candidate with a unique job posting. I'll teach you how to save time and money by only interviewing candidates that are a good fit. I'll share the secrets to an interviewing process that ensures success. And the one big secret that everybody gets wrong is how to onboard a good salesperson so they ramp up quickly and stick around. I'm doing the Sales Hiring Secrets program on a monthly basis. You can click the link below to figure out when the next Sales Hiring Secrets program is scheduled, and you can sign up. Click the link below, and you get all the details. And it's designed for you to bring your entire team so you can get everybody up to speed quickly. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.